When we met Annemarie, it was in 2005, and during all the process of developing, your country changed a lot. And it was a very important question, at which date is the film, you know, how we can, because Annemarie said every 2 weeks, she said, oh, now there is no gas in my country, now, you know, it was like a challenge, you know, because of course the urgency to shoot was real, and how to adapt the script during all the process.
There's a portrait of Arafat. It just like that in the. After it was like that. No, it's like that.
It's crooked. There's a crooked portrait. No, it was a question. I mean, because the script is contemporary, and it was always meant to be a contemporary story, and very much about what does it mean to be a refugee today. But then this reality day to day was changing so much, and I kept at the beginning struggling to keep up with that and changing the script, and then I don't know, changing it, but not in a way that would be so different in 3 weeks, or trying not to date the script.
And we're in Europe, we are very anxious with that, to say to Annemarie, you must change. Annemarie said, no, don't worry, it's okay. I live here, and there is no problem. Before yesterday and tomorrow it will be different, but it's no problem. And we were very, we tried to push her, but no, she said, no, don't worry. And she's right. And we said, she doesn't walk. No, it was just because she was on the field, she was in the daily life in Palestine, in the West Bank, in Ramallah. You can, in terms of cooking system, it's very interesting to know that you have many entries, many possibilities. Even if it's not so rich and so easy, it's complicated to succeed, but there is some possibilities. For a country abroad, without real economy of cinema, it's strategic to work with Europe. But immediately, and to come back to the problem of Annemarie, immediately you have to analyze how we can be European. For example, when we produced Zulu Love Letter from Ramadan Suleiman, South African director, caramba, huge chance. He was 7 years in France, and he was French papers, French documents. Okay, no problems, no problem of points. And this kind of idea to try to have a residence, to be married, we propose a lot but she does not want. She is very dogmatic with this kind of problem. We try, for example, to have European nationality for the musician, Karam Rastega, who is an Iranian musician, very good, but he lives in Scotland. Never we succeed. And we have a very interesting moment where we say, okay, 6 months more. And she went, but when we say 6 months more, it's because we were totally broke. Yeah. We have no money, and they say, no, we can go. You remember?
But important to know that co-production is a nightmare of the nightmare. So, because to succeed to produce Annemarie was to succeed in the co-production money, but after is to harmonize everything. And in the case of Salt of the Sea was more difficult because the shooting was in Palestine and Israel. Annemarie and the actor was from there. So, you know, co-production means obligation. You must have in each country some technician, some artistic points, and some expense. So after is to see what is possible to do and to protect the artistic. I think for Annemarie it was totally crazy because on set a little part of the crew was European, but coming from France, Swiss, Belgium. The post-production was made in France with Belgium editor, the sound editing and mixing in Netherlands, the lab in Switzerland, you know. So you imagine to do something means to be in relation with each part of the co-production and to have on time the element, to have on time the price. It was like a big nightmare.
And to be with the situation that to co-produce in this case is how we can co-produce with so many obligations and protect the artistic. And in this case, we can say that the obligation was a fourth part against the artistic. We can say for Annemarie, not a lot, but somewhere, we are not very happy with this problem of this mosaic of co-production. And somewhere, this obligation was fourth part against the artistic. But we had no choice. It was that or no film.
Maybe it would be useful to move on to talk about your journey of financing, so that some of these issues will come out clearly.
It's not finished first. Important to know that we are today and we didn't receive all the money. Important to...
And it can be 2 or 3 years to finish that. Not to complete the gap, because we have a gap today, but also just to finalize the documents between all the co-producers, to finalize the last payment. Just the last payment when there is payment.
And we begin very classically with our support or your French system, you know, with Fonds Sud, with Arte, and it's the beginning of the failure. Because it was so incredible, because in France we failed everywhere, but everywhere. And when we said we failed, it's not one submission, is lobbying and come back and fail and come back, you know, and insist, and it was totally crazy.
For post-production it was 40,000 euros, it's a huge difference. And I don't know, but Annemarie somewhere was just ready to say, bullshit, I don't want this money, you remember?
Yeah, I said, after 3 rejections.
Yeah, but it's the difference between the tough political and us that to say 40,000 we take away. Yeah, somebody wants to speak and.
Yeah, I mean, this film to me should have had Arab funding, absolutely. I mean, the subject, the story should have had, and it didn't. And I did have pressure from other producers I met before going with JBA, who had artistic kind of like why there's a Palestinian female in the film, for example, who has lived abroad and a local Palestinian male who's not lived abroad. There was a kind of obsession, well, you know, he's probably like, in terms of their relationship, he probably can't understand who she is. There should be some kind of tension, being like, you know, a local Arab male who's backwards and her being this westernized, modernized woman. That doesn't exist in the script because that's not the reality for me. But that's a European kind of a cliche that they would like to see. And many producers, yeah, they would like to confirm their own cliches on screen. So there were a lot of things like that, and politically, of course, there's a confrontation in the script between the main character and the Israeli woman who is living in her family's house. For example, that was an issue with we won't get into the details of Sundance, but that was a very big issue for the US. Why is not this relationship not resolved? This was kind of an obsession, an American obsession, that this has to be reconnected and some kind of compromise. And I have to say, one thing about JBA is that there was no compromise. They were quite involved in the development stage, but there was never a fear that most other producers had that we're going to be attacked for this right of a story about the right of return. That's the red line issue. Again and again we heard that, and a lot of our rejections were that because of that. I mean, these guys have been doing this for a long time, and they have a track record. They don't care. We had one attack where I was told, you know, that your script is polarizing and hostile. Anyway, so that's I don't know if that answers the question, but yes, there is room. It's difficult, but there are producers out there who will not put those compromises. And if you know what you want, you know what you're doing, then you can find it.
Your question is okay. There is always an influence of the money on the creation. Always. We must be very, very careful with that. It's our job to protect the film against this smell of money. You see what I mean? That it's European money in African movies, in a South American movie. We fail. We feel that there is something like an influence. And for Annemarie, it was, we were proud to be not under influence. It's a political problem, you know? Because there is some demand, you remember, as she said. But it's our job to try to gather the network of supporters of the film, not people that they want to change the film. No, the people that they want to co-produce this film are welcome in the boat, not the others. You remember the German TV?
Yeah.
Arte, Fonds Sud, 0, Arte Cinema, and we have produced a lot of films with Arte Cinema. And it's very rare that we fail with Arte Cinema. And we have 16 films in Cannes. They love JBA for that, even if we don't, in terms of box office, we are very bad. But in terms of, they say no, even before the plenary in Arte.
But the reason they said no, which is worse, is that they said they wrote in a letter, we have no doubt about the artistic talent of Annemarie as a writer and director. However, the script, and I would rather be told they have a doubt about me as a writer-director, to have an artistic doubt. That's the kind of answer they should be giving, rather than we don't have a doubt about that, but we have a problem with the content. And that's something that Arab filmmakers have to deal with.
Well, because it was very difficult. We are there, we are the producers, the main producer, nothing on board, and Switzerland said yes. It was in November. We already decided to postpone the film, which was very difficult, and for Sue especially, because you book your time for the first planning. And after, it was a long process.